Hi YouTube, it's Evan Pantazzi. I wanted to go through a little rundown on my newest purchase for firearm. It's the Sig P365. Let's first check that it's clear. Okay, let's get this in action here and let's go over it a little bit. Now I just picked this up, and the reason why I just picked this up when it's been out for a couple of years is it had to be mass compliant. Okay, and in Massachusetts, you know, it's a kind of a foolish state for firearms laws, but it has to have a chamber check, which it had already. Okay, and it has to have this manual safety. Okay, and it doesn't matter. I mean, it's unobtrusive. It's bilateral, so you could do it on either side. Okay, whether you're righty or lefty, and it works just great. It's not a hard tension on it, but you can get it into action pretty easy. Now, I don't particularly use this. I do carry the full magazine plus one in the chamber, but it's got a safety of sorts that I'd like to discuss with you, but that's a little later in the game. But to get into Massachusetts, and that was just recently in the past month or two, when this first became advertised here, ran out and got it, but I needed to get that with the safety on it, and I picked one up. And I'm probably going to be picking one up for the wife as well, because this is a nice little handgun. So let's go over some of the perks. First of all, it's a 10+1 capacity, which is a great capacity for a micro gun. All right, this is a micro 9mm, and it's great. I mean, I've got normal size hands, but you can see it just fits right in my hand. Very concealable. Now, I do like the magazine. The magazine has this canted end, and it's great. It's got a flat end as well. I don't like grabbing that as often, and I don't carry it with that because I like the extra gripability of this pointed thing. Now, it's hollow, so it doesn't carry much weight to it, and it has no function other than to get your hand grip on it. Now, I enjoy this in particular because I can get all three fingers on it, which gives me much more stability for the recoil. Now, the recoil isn't bad in this. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos on this particular handgun, and it says it's pretty snappy for a little gun, but I don't think so. And I'll show you the ammunition I was using a little bit later. But I do like this lip. Now, I'm a martial artist, and I've been one for many, many decades, and we have a hand position called the single-bladed grasp. It's an ancient Shaolin hand position. But when you form this hand, you're going to be using it by the curling of the small finger. Now, as you see with that, you see that the hand position is exacting to the posture I just showed you. But what happens with that is you grip with the small finger first, and you get the ability over time to really grip tight on this. This is your locking finger. You're locking two fingers. You're locking three fingers. This is your guiding finger in that martial technique. When you're grabbing onto this handgun, you're going to be putting the pressure down onto the base of that plate, which grips on very solidly, keeping it from rising during the recoil against the fulcrum here. So you've got a great base to work with there, and it grips very nicely. This overhang here also fits in very firmly into the hand as you're grabbing it. Now, the grip is, even though I've got good size strength in my hands, I like a smaller grip. Okay, and you can see that what the size of it is. You can't tell the size of my hands, but you can see that grip fits perfectly in there, and it works for my wife as well. Being a little thinner this direction, okay, lets her get a smaller hand get a good grip on that as well. But in a bigger hand, it still feels very comfortable. Much to do probably with the width of that as well, which isn't really wide compared to a full compact or a full-size pistol, but it is just perfect for my hands. And it's got a nice finger groove in here that you can set your thumb in that gives you further control over that. If it was stippled, it might have a little bit more control, but if you took this to the range with the stippling, over time, that might wear a little bit. If you're wearing gloves, that's one thing. I don't particularly train with gloves on because I'm probably not going to be wearing gloves in a needed situation. So the capacity again is 10 plus 1, and that's fantastic. I don't like to carry extra magazines, and I'm used to carrying a 5-shot 357 Magnum anyway, so I don't really concern myself with that. I mean, if you need more than 11 shots, you pick the wrong area to travel into. And yeah, okay, with all these shooters going around, that might be a concern, but I'm not particularly going to get into a firefight with anybody. This is to get me the heck out of there safely. So I'm figuring a couple warning shots or a couple shots to try to drop the opponent, and then have the rest in backup. That's fine. If I need to go, I'm not going to be standing there shooting like Jack Bauer. I am going to be seeking cover. Okay, and now the sights on this are just fantastic. Now this is a very accurate gun, by the way, and I don't blame that accuracy on me. I blame it more on the gun. The sights are fantastic because they're tritium sights, and you can see that that end is a day glow big dot, and that lets you pick it up nicely in the daytime. Also, of course, at night because of the tritium inserts into that. Now, this handgun is really fantastic because it has the grooves up at the front and at the back. So if you just want to do a chamber check, you can do that very easily. Or if you want to do a full rack, you can also accomplish that. So you get the good gripability. Now it has rails underneath that you could attach a laser to it or maybe a flashlight. I don't prefer to do that because this is a concealed carry. I carry it abdominal in waistband, and I want it as small as possible. You've got the tritium night sights, so you don't need the laser on it as much. And the flashlight, if I'm in that situation and I'm using it to go through my house, I've got a flashlight in hand anyway. So I'm not going to use that rail, but it is there for you to affix anything you want with it. Now, this has two different magazines here, and it has a flat one, it has this raised one. Besides the grip on that, when I conceal carry in the waistband, what happens is that extension that you would think would print really isn't a concern because it lays right across or right around the belt line. So with the belt line and the grip here, you can't really tell that this is the same size as the flat stock there. So it's just perfect. I carried that for that extra grip, and it doesn't seem to bother me at all. Now, when you're using this, the best part of this, for me anyway, is the trigger. Now, I've gone through a lot of different triggers from J-frames, the heavy pull of the J-frame, up to and including the long pull of the Car PM9. Now, the Car PM9 is what I used to carry. That's a tough little gun to shoot because it has a long, spongy type of a pull. But this is cocked and ready to go, so let me show you something. And this is one reason I carry the 10 in the magazine, 1 in the chamber, but I do not use the safety because, first of all, I carry it concealed. I mean, it's in a holster, so I don't have to worry about that trigger going off. But this has such a long, soft, easy pull to it right before the break. It's a very hard stop before the break, and that allows me to get onto that gun, hold that gun securely. The break is a very short movement. Now, here's the best part. Okay, let's set that up again. The wall to come back to is a very short throw, very crisp, audible. You can feel it, you can hear it, and you can even see it when it's pulled. So you have a very small pull coming back again to reset. So once you've fired the gun, you don't have to go out to the full trigger pull. You only go to that small little break and pull again. And once you get used to that, that just feels great. It's got that slow pull up and then that short little break, and then that quick little reset. Perfect for multiple firing. You can get double shots off, triple shots off with that with no problem whatsoever. So let's get into the ammunition that I use with this. Typically, I use the Hornady 115 grain 9mm critical defense. Excellent hollow point with a little bit of plastic thing so it doesn't clog going through clothing or barriers. Excellent little round. It's accurate, it's powerful, and it performs quite well. Now, when I went out to shoot this, I took something else that's sort of similar to the critical defense. It's the Hornady Zombie Max, and this is actually just a critical defense load, tricked up, I guess, for marketing. It's got a green little tip in there instead of the red tip of the critical defense. It's again 115 grain 9mm, same exact round. I bought these because I got them on sale after the marketing hype had gone away. I got to pick up 2,000 of these things for really cheap. So I got these, and this is what I've been shooting because 2,000 rounds of this, it's a good practice round. Now, it was expensive, but on the sale that I got, wasn't as bad. So I also want to shoot what I'm going to be basically carrying in my firearm on the course so I can get the feel of it. I know what's going to happen with it. There were no jams. There were no failures to lock back on the last round. The firearm worked perfectly throughout. I did get a little bit of scoring on the shells. Okay, and let's get one in here so you can see, and I don't know if we can get this clear enough here, but you could see that the striker dragged just a little bit. Okay, and that's typical of small guns, but in particular the Sig P365. Now, they do have a steel firing pin that should eliminate that issue, and I haven't bought one yet. I'm probably going to pick one up and just to reassemble it with that in there and keep the stock one aside for just in case, because the last thing you want is to have a firing pin break. Now, they've since, Sig Sauer has since changed the composite of the metal they used in their forging of that firing pin, so it's not as much of a concern, and there hasn't been as many complaints. I think they've tackled that over the years, but this model is again just a superb carry. I'll show you a little bit of the recoil right at the end of this film here so you can see the kickback on it. Just beautiful firearm, and thanks for Sig for keeping it going, and we'll touch base with you after. I've put through a couple hundred rounds through this, and so far so good, no malfunctions, and it shoots just great. When I first took it out, first magazine that I put through it, I was within 4 inches at about 15-20 yards, and no problem with that at all. A little bit more refinement got that down to a smaller range. So again, the accuracy on this handgun is superb. I don't blame it on myself, I blame it on Sig.